Hi everyone, Hal Krosman here with Screenwriting U.
Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the interest techniques that Sandy used, and I've got to say I think she did an excellent job on this. Um, I'm going to run through and point out the ones that I noticed right off the bat, and then we'll talk about a strategy that you can use to be able to use more interest techniques. Now, just to be clear, these are the interest techniques that we're going to be looking at: hook, dilemma, predictions, something unseen, mystery, creating a future, anticipatory dialogue, cliffhanger, and uncomfortable moment. So let's just start right up here at the top. The first thing I think a lot of this creates a mystery, especially whenever we see, this interesting, somewhat strange-looking woman, leaning over the shoulder of this balding, overweight man who sweats profusely. We're wondering what's going on with this guy. Then we take it a step further, and we get this part right here. Nobody seems to be aware, or everyone seems to be unaware of their presence. So here, yes, there's something unseen. So that's number 4. But there's also, this is still part of the mystery. Nancy points her hand at the monitor. The numbers slowly drop. So now we're starting to see she's in control of it. The balding man throws up his arms and groans loudly. All right. So again, all of that's about presenting the mystery. Now, Squire says, "Good, you've got him perspiring. Now lower, lower, Nancy." You could say that's part of the mystery. You could say that's a hook. You could say it's anticipatory dialogue. Take your choice. But mainly what it's about is it creates more interest. So sometimes these different techniques mesh together, and which is okay. And if they mesh together and it still creates interest, then you're successful. So let's go down a little further here. This line right here, which is one of the lines that I changed in the previous one, but still, right here is anticipatory dialogue. She says, "Now top that one, rookie." Her dialogue is creating anticipation into the future. Um, then, of course, this is a really interesting little scenario here, where Squire essentially seduces the the lady that's walking by, and essentially she's having a relationship here with an angel or whatever they are. And she starts kissing back. She opens her eyes and she's shocked to find out that she's kissing the sweaty bald guy. Now, this is a great uncomfortable moment. So I think that was really well laid in there. You know, uh, down just a little further, and this isn't much, but Nancy glares at Squire. The stare down is interrupted by cries of "No" from the balding man. So in that case, it's a tiny bit unseen. Let's continue down. Um, Now, this, by the way, is subtext for anticipatory dialogue. Squire says, "You win." I can't top that, but he actually had topped it, right? But him saying that is implying that, this competition is going to continue, because that he now is going to do what he can to top something. Anyway, here's the second piece of anticipatory dialogue. Busted. Nancy says, "Oh God," right? Implying something's going on. Squire says busted, also anticipatory dialogue, implying that something is about to happen. Now let's go a little further here. Gabriella says, "Let's see how you two have been doing on your probation." Again, anticipatory dialogue. And then down at the bottom, she says, "I would say that takes you both one step closer to hell." You could call this a couple of different things. I'm going to call it either creating a future or a prediction. They're going to hell, and that's what Gabriella is there for. Now let's just continue. And instantly, what we're about to see here is something that's pretty typical when somebody's really trying to do a great job, um, of creating. Here, let's just back up just a second. Fortunately for you, God is willing to give you one more chance. Here's the deal. So they have one more chance, and in this case, that does a couple of things. Yes, again, that's anticipatory dialogue, but it also creates a little bit of suspense, which comes from our previous stuff. So we see Jane. She has average looks. This is going to be very difficult. Um, their job is to get Jane and Jeffrey together. They have something they're trying to accomplish, um, and they have a very short span of time to do it. So Gabriella says, "Oh, and you better hurry. You have 10 minutes." Now, again, this is creating the ticking clock, and it's about creating suspense. But also, then we have her singing this little song, "Purgatory, here you come, right back where you started from." And in this case, that's a prediction. So that makes it kind of fun. Um, go a little further. Let's see. Down here. Now, they're having their little argument. Squire's about to try to get Jane to do something. He says, "A woman needs to feel sexy, and then she will exude confidence." So in this case, he's creating a future. He's having us see a future that's about to happen. Nancy then says, "Let's see, how did that turn out last time?" Now, this is basically as a subtext prediction. She's basically saying it failed last time, it's going to fail this time. Um, let's go down here just a bit further, and here it is. Slowly, she reaches out to tap him on the shoulder, then turns, runs, and vomits in a nearby potted plant. Okay, so that's an uncomfortable moment. Um, you know, which creates some interesting stuff. Now, suddenly we've gone our whole 10 minutes here, 15 seconds, 14. So again, we're in the ticking clock, and we're back experiencing the suspense. And she continues to count down one step at a time. And of course there's going to be interest created because now the question is, will they achieve their goal? Nancy is down here trying to figure it out, and finally she does. Let me say one last thing here. The way this thing ends is Nancy and Squire succeed. Nancy trips Jeffrey, and Jane runs over to him and offers a hand to help him, and they meet in a loving gaze. Okay, so I see this a lot, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a lot of times when I think a scene can send us into the next scene, and if you'll notice, on almost every time I point one of these out, at the end, I try to set up something like this. Now, I'm not saying you always want to do it because it'll seem too predictable or that kind of thing. But you know what? A lot of times it's a valuable thing, and it's one of the techniques, our interest techniques, called the cliffhanger. So I don't see a cliffhanger here. I'd like to see a cliffhanger here. So let me give you a very simple what if, on a cliffhanger. What if we had this happen? And it got down, Gabriella's counting down 7, 6, 5, 4. Nancy trips Jeffrey, Gabriella 2, 1. Jeffrey's now hit the turf. Gabriella clicks, her time's up. She looks at both of them, she snaps her fingers, and Nancy and Squire disappear. And now Gabriella stays there to watch Jane run over, offer a hand, help Jeffrey to his feet, and their eyes meet in a loving gaze. Which means Nancy and Squire have been whisked away to purgatory, but we know that they actually succeeded. They just didn't succeed within that exact amount of time. So there's this big question about what's going to happen next, and that's going to send us into the next scene. Do Nancy and Squire get away with it? Do they, even though they succeeded, do they go to hell because they didn't make it in the exact 10 minutes? What happens here, right? So that's a cliffhanger. So, and that actually could easily have been done here. You probably could come up with a couple of other possible cliffhangers. I want you guys to start thinking about those and start adding those in. And if in your scene you don't have a cliffhanger, then stand back and say, what could be a cliffhanger for your particular scene? How could you do something that would have us be required to read the next scene to find out what happened? Again, that's part of what they call a page turner. Now let's go to one last thing. Let me give you a strategy real fast for how to use these interest techniques, because this is really important. And it's a real simple strategy. But what it's about is having you first figure out the essence and the situation, right? So you just get the situation, you get the essence of the thing, and then instead of going right into the writing and trying to get the dialogue, what I want you to do is I want you to take the list of interest techniques and I want you to brainstorm how could each of those interest techniques be used in this situation and with this essence. And you might come up with 2 or 3 different ways to use each one and then, back it off, pick the best ones and that kind of thing. But if you brainstorm it through interest and then you create a sequence, of those interest techniques, that essentially you're writing an outline for the scene. So it's going to be very easy to then use all the interest techniques, and use them very, very well. And then you go through, you write the scene using that sequence, and then you plug in and make sure that the dialogue works. So that's a simple way for you to do this now. Now your job is to go back to your scene, now that you've seen this evaluation, this critique, and rewrite that scene again using all of the dialogue skills, the traits, and the subtext, and using all of these interest techniques in order to make it be as compelling as possible. So have a good time with that. I can't wait to see what you do.